While they prepare, we have the next speaker is Marie-Claude Poulin, is a senior artist at Full Dome XR Lab in the University of Applied Arts in Vienna, and is founder and co-director of the digital performance group Condition Pluriel. Thank you very much, and please.
Hello, everyone. So I'm very glad to be here after these exciting presentations. I would like to thank Clarisse and Jacob for this invitation. In my lecture, I will introduce a project which we have been developing together with my colleagues, Martin Kusch, who is an associate professor at the University of Applied Arts, and Johannes Hucek, on the computer side. Personally, I'm a senior artist and researcher with a background in dance and choreography, as well as the co-director of the digital performance group based in Montreal, Condition Pluriel. The overall research project in which we developed our prototypes is called LEFO and is a BMBWF-funded project with the framework of digital and social transformation, from which the partners are Danube University Krems in Austria, University of Art and Design Linz, also in Austria, and University of Applied Arts in Vienna. Our goal in this project is to develop prototypes of future-oriented forms of documentation for digital art. The virtual metaset is what I will mainly focus in this presentation. That's what we have been doing at the Full Dome XR Lab in Vienna. I will introduce the development and creation of various prototypes for archiving digital artworks in the virtual space. These AR/VR prototypes that are meant to be multisensory and kinesthetic forms of documentation and archiving have been called the virtual metaset, and they consist of 3 examples of different artworks by Condition Pluriel. So we used our own artworks as case studies to develop these prototypes. So I will explain later on what makes these artworks suitable for this type of documentation project. So the 3 artworks are created with distinctive immersive media technologies. The first one on the left, yes, is the diver. It's an interactive VR installation. The future room is the second one. In the middle is an interactive full dome installation. And the swarming lounge is a mixed reality performance. Each of these works is interactive and participatory and solicits the subjective point of view of the visitors' viewers, which is practically impossible to document with the usual means of documentation like video or photo. Now, in order to better understand what is at stake when attempting to document this type of work, I will now give a short introduction about each of the works, helping to better contextualize how they later manifest in our virtual reality archive. This is the first work, the interactive VR installation diver. So this is a photo of the shooting of the piece, which was realized with an Olympic springboard diver in Barcelona on the Montjuïc. So the work dismantles an Olympic dive into a myriad of viewpoints experienced subjectively by the user thanks to virtual reality. 5 somersaults are captured by cameras mounted on the diver's body. The cameras are attached to the head, shoulders, hands, forearms, back, hips, and lower legs to simultaneously record multiple subjective viewpoints during the jumps. Diver questions the notion of the body as policed by sporting competition, combining the real, the virtual, the filmed, the kinesthetic, and the sculptural. Equipped with a VR headset, visitors plunge into these acrobatic freefall jumps, transformed into surreal video sculpture. Depending on the type of dive performed, the images consist of a variety of staged and highly dynamic moving and subjective viewpoints. There are as many visual compositions as there are diving figures. The movement of the viewer in space, in the real space, is influencing the speed of the image playback. So if the viewer is static, stops moving, the images stop. Okay, so that was for the first work. Now the second artwork is the full dome installation Future Room, an interactive space where the public is invited to reflect on the future of burning social issues. Seated in a circle in a dome, visitors are invited to stand up to name a theme at the microphone via voice recognition. One of the 12 thematic information clouds about the future of the digital society is triggered by the public. The proposed themes are such as migration, energy, democracy, urbanization, artificial intelligence, work, and so on. Now, a quick video. So the future room is meant as a metaphor for a prediction machine.
To start, choose a word and say it out loud into the microphone.
Work.
Little evidence is required to demonstrate that networks of machines scale better than human labor.
Economy.
New capitalist class systems, separate society.
The gap continues to widen.
The global economy has transformed from a material-based economy into a knowledge-based economy.
Is the main source of wealth knowledge?
Okay, now the last of the three works, that's the one I'm going to focus on in the virtual reality archive. So this is a mixed reality performance called Swarming Lounge 2.0, in which visitors can watch 4 performers and encounter their virtual doubles displayed on their smartphones. While wandering through this meta-dimensional gallery, visitors experience different qualities of presence and modes of perception that eventually lead to an increased awareness of the intertwined levels of reality. Here, the audience and live performers interact with the virtual characters. In this installation, the virtual space and the real space merge into a mixed reality. A new environment is created where the physical and digital objects can coexist and interact with each other in real time. Embedded in real and virtual situations, visitors are drawn into parallel layers of multiple presences by the live performers and their digital doppelgangers. and experience different micro-narratives distributed throughout the exhibition space. So now, coming back to the virtual metaset, let's look at the prototypes. To give a little context in regards to the motivation to develop this virtual metaset, for us, digital art is realized in a critical aesthetic examination of the technologies that shape our perception and our understanding of reality. Heterogeneous forms of presences are essential to the corresponding artistic artifacts and processes. Building on this background, the virtual metaset is using augmented and mixed reality, virtual reality headsets, and interactive 360-degree full dome environments in order to enable a multimodal and interactive access and to foster a multi-sensory engagement with the archived digital artworks in the database. We have been developing this exemplary prototype for the navigation and the access to various archival data, which enables an interactive usage and the exploration of different data formats, process data, work components, documentation, and even simulation of the digital artworks in the virtual space. The prototypes are designed to simulate and reconstitute the artworks and their genesis history in a virtual environment, allowing to travel between the simulated works and their documentary and annotative material. During the development of this virtual metaset, our focus was placed on merging documentation and simulation. Now let's start to look deeper at how the digital assets and metadata can be experienced by a user with the metaset. The prototype can be walked through with a VR headset and 2 controllers as an interface for navigation. Users point somewhere to place their viewpoint and are teleported to the chosen location. Video documentation, photos of the different venues can be explored and experienced with this application. Our goal is to investigate about how perception changes when the boundaries between simulated reality, documentation, and the real work disappear in an immersive environment. And the capture of data is made tangible on an interactive and multisensory level. The idea is also to consider the user's gestures, oscillations, hesitations, and instabilities as evidence of their thinking process in relation to the archive environment, which has a haptic kinesthetic dimension. The digital assets that constitute the work, here costume tryouts, can make 2 very, very small one after the other. Mocap recording session, space visit photos, 3D space models, sketches, storyboards, scripts, performance instructions can also be explored and experienced in a certain physical way. Another aspect is the possibility of exploring different components of the work as metadata, various technical tests and prototypes, exploration of the specific sites where the performance took place. Here, a public tunnel from World War II in Zagreb. Visits amongst scenographic elements. So these are the markers, which were also artworks themselves, but they were triggering the different augmented scenes. Or here, the gathering of all 3D virtual characters. Or the different audio samples that create the sound environment as single audio files. So now another aspect of the virtual metaset is the artwork simulation. So we have it for the work 1 still. Here we have a simulated space of the installation, the Swarming Lounge installation, a simulated phone device, a simulated experience of the apparition of the augmented content and micro-narratives in relation to the journey inside the environment. In the simulation, the right-hand controller then has the additional function of the smartphone in the real installation. The user can visualize the virtual characters via a frame representing the smartphone screen by selecting the respective markers. In the simulation, the documentation material, video, and photos are currently embedded, can be displayed in parallel, thus enabling a different expanded perception of the work. The location in which the work was actually staged can be selected via the menu. When selected, the simulation of the respective spatial installation starts, and additional documentation material can be shown in the scene for better visualization. Here we see, for example, the simulation of another venue where the performance took place. This was more of a gallery context with other artworks. Okay, now a very brief overview of the work 2 and 3. The future room, just to show another environment, the one of the dome, being simulated in the virtual metaset.
Does the digital infrastructure collapse? Do cities have a survival length of 1 week max?
The navigation and display system enables a multimodal exploration of the archival material. The three-dimensional virtual data room allows the analysis and viewing of an archived digital work to be experienced in a new way. So now this is back to the other work, the diver, and a quick example of how it's displayed in the metaset. We decided to use still images to mark a difference with the original version of the work where the planes were videos. I don't know how I am in time.
You have 15 seconds.
Okay, so that's the conclusion slide. To conclude, I would like to sum up by saying that by exploring the virtual metaset, the user benefits from more physical and tangible access to the various archived documents, that the processual material can be viewed in different ways and experienced more haptically in virtual space, that the navigation path and thinking process of the user, him or herself, becomes part of the archival exploration. In a way, it could be said that this is an immersive re-experience, a digital re-enactment of the work in virtual space, and in this sense, a new and innovative form of documentation and archiving of digital art in virtual space. On this note, I will finish. Thank you very much for your attention and hoping that you have found some inspiration in this talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Such a fascinating presentation. We have time for one, maximum 2 questions before the break, more or less time. Is there any question? Yes, please.
That's great, Marie-Claude. I bet I have a question that maybe Clarice has as well. Just briefly, I mean, when we're looking at when we're looking at process, or at least from my perspective, usually change over time is the key thing. So how things evolve over time and what changes in terms of the creative work. And of course, this is large teams and lots of things going on. But how does that axis of time? Can you go into the documentation and proceed in a linear fashion there through the creation of the work?
In this environment, so it's more related to space. So the assets are positioned in space. So it's like a parcours to explore and to discover, but the time notion is really depending on the user. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. There was another question from Federico.
Yeah, thank you. It's really interesting what you did, but from my point of view, your exploration of this meta set is such an individual point of view. Did you plan, or do you plan to explore the interaction with other actors in the meta set? Because the perception, my point of view, is also related to social interaction. So do you plan to explore the social interaction in the meta set to better understand the perception of these artworks?
At the moment, we were concentrating on the individual experience. For sure, we are very much the social interaction in the real space is something that is at the heart of what we do, so it must come at some point. Now the next phase of this project would be to go out of our own artwork and make it as a possible container for other artists to use. So that's more the upcoming step of this research project. But for sure, we at the Full Domics Art Lab, we have a Dome Lab, which allows about 20 people to move into real space while interacting with virtual content. So that could be very much a possible development.
Thank you. Maybe a last brief one, if there is. Yes, please.
And to me, it's a very important example of how to link between documentation, creation process, and reenactment of the works. And so, of course, we could expect some time exploration of the documents, as you have just said. But there is, for example, another experiment, which was Les Immatériaux, which was reconstructed by the Pompidou Center in a VR environment too. And so I think it's more on the reception side, and it's really how to make available on the I'm sorry, I'm not clear. It's really about how to document the reception of the works and to make it perceive again. Is that one of the goals that you are?
Well, there's something about the subjective point of view. I'm saying always it came from a necessity. We have to document our artworks, yeah? But these 3 specific artworks is not always the case, because we make also stage work, for example, performance work where the public is completely outside and watches on a stage. But these 3 artworks are based or include the journey and the choices and the subjective point of view of the user, as it is part of the work itself. So to document this on a 2D flat screen is completely perverting what the work is about. So it's like finding a way to document these works by including this element.
Thank you very much. I suggest we may continue with the question during the coffee break, and last applause for a great presentation. Okay.